Yeah, the Chicago Sky are a disaster. They are a disaster. More of a disaster than the USA look after 25 minutes against Belgium, where, I mean, they're lucky to be only 1-0 down, but I gotta be very real here. These Sky...
A disaster. He says it twice before the clock even hits 5 seconds, and if anything, he's being generous. Because right now the Chicago Sky aren't just losing basketball games. Their franchise point guard is airing them out on Instagram. Their $60 million practice facility still doesn't have a roof, and in about 2 weeks, the entire league is going to show up on their doorstep to watch. So how does a team that swore this season would finally be different end up here?
They're terrible now. They have no future. They have no real picks. They don't even have their pick. They don't even control their pick the next 2 years. They gave up their 2028 pick when, by the way, they're going to be terrible for J.C. Sheldon.
Start with the part that quietly does the most long-term damage. The Sky are 6-14, sitting 13th in the league, and they don't even have a lifeline to fall back on. In their rush to win now, they traded away control of their own first-round picks. They already shipped out the selection that turned into the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. It went to Minnesota, who used it on Olivia Miles, and they still owe the Washington Mystics a first-round swap in 2027 and an unprotected first-rounder in 2028. Read that again. Unprotected. So when this roster hits the floor, and it is hitting the floor, there's no high lottery pick waiting to soften the landing. And this isn't a one-year blip either. It's back-to-back losing seasons, 23-61 combined over the last 2 years, tied for dead last in 2025. Right now, they sit about 4.5 games out of the final playoff spot, chasing the Washington Mystics. Let that sink in. The team they're falling behind in the standings is the same team collecting their draft picks on the way down.
Skylar Diggins coming out with a statement. I've been putting my body on the line all year for this team. I've done everything that's been asked of me. I've been great professionally. That's the decision that's made. I gotta live with that about coming to the bench. And by the way, if you guys, like, she recorded...
Then there's Skylar Diggins. On Monday, the 35-year-old, a 7-time All-Star, posted to her Instagram story, quote, "Now I'm coming off the bench," followed by a sarcastic thumbs up and the word cool. Then a video where she says she's been, in her words, so good and quiet. Understand the context. This is a player who has started 341 of her 354 career games. She had not come off the bench since 2016. She chose Chicago in free agency, signing a 2-year deal worth around $1.8 million, which, according to SpotRack, is more than she'd earned in the previous 10 seasons of her career combined. She came here to be the leader of the reset. 19 games in, she's a reserve, and by her own account, she found out with almost no warning. But the timing of when she finally snapped, that's the piece that should genuinely worry Chicago, and I'll show you why in a minute.
When you're paying these old players, not only that, the Chicago Sky, a big reason why they hosted the All-Star weekend was that they could show off, you know, look, we're a serious franchise. We have this new practice facility. Like, oh yeah, look, we're not.
Here's why that timing lands like a punch. Chicago isn't just quietly playing out a lost season. In a couple of weeks, the Sky are hosting WNBA All-Star Weekend. Every star, every free agent, every executive in the league comes to town, and the entire pitch was supposed to be, look at us now. Look at the gleaming new practice facility. We're a serious franchise. They essentially scheduled a recruiting event for themselves in their own building. Brilliant plan, if a single piece of it were actually ready.
Sky are shuffling practice venues. They are literally shuffling between practice venues. They don't even have their old spot that they used to have in the rec center because they thought they would already be in. As the delays continue, it's also unclear whether the building will be ready for All-Star Weekend. Obviously, it won't be. If they're not in...
Instead, the Sky have been bouncing between practice gyms all year. They gave up their old space, assuming they'd already be in the new building by now. They are not. The facility, out in Bedford Park, was first promised for the end of 2025, then the start of the 2026 season. Then, per the team's own CEO, late spring. The local village president floated an official opening date of June 23rd, which is already weeks after the season tipped off. And according to the reporting heading into All-Star Weekend, it still isn't operational. And here's the thing that stings. This was avoidable. The facility's arms race across the league kicked off back in 2023. Chicago had years to move on it. Reporting suggests ownership was still sitting down with players about what they even wanted the building to be at the end of 2025. So the crown jewel asset they were going to parade in front of the entire league during the one weekend built to sell everyone on Chicago is a construction site. 3 years to plan this exact moment, and they're set to be handing out hard hats instead of tours.
60 million spent, and need 25 plus years to get it back. And is this real? Maybe, yeah, okay. Let's say, I was like, if that's real, that would be kind of crazy mid-season, but still.
And it is not a cheap construction site. This project started at roughly $40 million and climbed to 60. When it's finally finished, it's reportedly going to be the largest practice facility in the entire WNBA, around 80,000 square feet. A full kitchen, space is built specifically for content creation. And to be completely fair, that's a real serious, long overdue investment, and it's genuinely good for the franchise's future. The ambition isn't the issue. The execution and the timing are. You do not spend $60 million building a showpiece to impress people and then fail to have it open on the one weekend you designed it to impress them. That exact gap between what the Sky keep telling everyone they are and what they can actually deliver once there's a deadline on the calendar, that is the entire story of this organization in a single sentence.
Unironically, the only one of the main positive things they have is the 38-year-old, whatever age she is, Courtney Vandersloot, still looks pretty good. I can't believe that is, we're talking about that as one of the positives. As one of the positives is that Sloot is pretty good. Like, how is employing a near 38-year-old, whatever age she is, Sloot off an ACL tear, one of the positives? Like, that is mental. That is absolutely mental.
So who is actually holding this team together on the floor? The answer is almost too on the nose. It's Courtney Vandersloot, who is 37 years old and just came back from tearing her ACL last June. She's on a minutes restriction, playing something like 16 a night, and she is still, comfortably, one of the steadiest presences they have, right around 9 points and 6 assists in that limited time. Sit with how that sounds. Your single most dependable veteran is a 37-year-old rehabbing a torn knee, and everyone agrees she's a bright spot. That's not a compliment to Vandersloot, that's an indictment of everyone built around her. And here's the gut punch of history. This is the same franchise that won a WNBA championship in 2021, with that same Courtney Vandersloot running the point. 5 years from a title to this. A team where the best-case scenario on any given night is that a 37-year-old coming off knee surgery looks like her old self for a few minutes. That is how far and how fast this thing has fallen.
They've got no practice facility. Your marquee free agent signing clearly does not want to be there. Clearly does not want to be there. And your best player outside of Cardoso.
And your prized free agent addition, the leadership hire, the culture setter, is publicly frustrated and, fairly or not, looks like she'd rather be somewhere else. Now, in fairness to Diggins, she said plainly this week that she did not ask for a trade, that it's, quote, none of her teammates' business, and that she just wants to find ways to win. Her coach, Tyler Marsh, called the benching a coach's decision and openly praised her preparation and her work ethic. So this is not open warfare, but it is also nowhere near the picture of stability you sell to free agents. Meanwhile, the actual best long-term piece on this roster is young center Kamilla Cardoso, exactly the kind of ascending cornerstone you're supposed to build around. Not the kind you bury underneath a pile-up of veteran guards, which, as we'll see, is precisely what this front office did.
Positive signs for the Sky. They didn't fuck up the draft. Because I'm shocked. They didn't fuck up the draft, but knowing the Sky, Gabriela Hawkes is not, there's no real point to having Gabriela Hawkes if you suck.
Now, credit where it's due. There is one thing the Sky did not botch, the actual draft. With the 5th overall pick, they grabbed Gabriela Hawkes out of that historic UCLA class, the one that sent 5 players into the first round in a single night. She's a legitimate prospect and a completely sensible selection. But here's the cruel logic underneath it. A promising rookie only pays off if the organization around her is stable enough to develop her. When you're this dysfunctional, a young player like Hawkes doesn't become a building block. She becomes just another asset that gets flipped in the next fire sale. And remember the bigger math. They don't just lack a star to pair her with, they lack the future picks to go get one. Drafting well doesn't save you when everything downstream of the pick is broken. It just hands you one more good thing to eventually waste.
And you're not even like fun, as from a fan's perspective, you're not even fun disaster anymore. At least when you're relevant and you're a disaster, it can be fun. It can be fun. Like, Dallas have got their shit together. Yes, Kurt Miller is a terrible GM, but they've at least got their shit together.
And this is the genuinely bleak part for anyone who roots for this team. There's a version of being bad that's at least fun. Messy, chaotic, chasing your own tail, entertaining to watch. The Sky aren't even that anymore. They're just quietly, grindingly, joylessly bad. Now hold that up against Dallas. The Wings finished tied for dead last with Chicago last season, both at 10 and 34. Same rock bottom, same misery, the identical starting point. But this offseason, Dallas won the #1 overall pick, drafted Azzi Fudd to pair alongside Paige Buckers, brought in a new head coach, and handed their fans an actual reason to show up. Two teams began in the exact same hole. One built a ladder, the other kept digging. That is the entire difference between a rebuild with a plan and a rebuild that's just vibes and press releases.
Like, you could not have gone wrong. As long as you didn't take Lauren Betts, you couldn't have gone wrong with the #1 pick this year. Like, did they draft the third best player? Yes. Or the third best prospect? Yes. Did they draft, but did they draft Lauren Betts, who people were trying to put #1, who would have been garbage for them? No. Thank God they didn't draft Lauren Betts.
And the timing of all this makes the Sky's veteran gamble look even worse. Because 2026 is the first season under a brand new collective bargaining agreement, and it exploded the money. The salary cap jumped from around $1.5 million to roughly $7 million. Rookies are suddenly getting paid real salaries. Azzi Fudd is reportedly making a record $500,000 in year one alone. So the entire league is flush with new cap room to load up on young, cheap, ascending talent. And what did Chicago do with that same historic window? They betted on 3 guards in their mid-30s and a building that isn't finished. Everyone else is drafting the future and paying it. The Sky are paying the past and hoping it holds up. When the rules of the whole league change overnight, the teams that read the moment pull away, and the teams that don't get left even further behind. Chicago read it wrong.
Like, the Sparks are pretty bad, and the Fever at least have Caitlin and Leah. And they're smart enough to not screw up that duo. And by that, I mean, like, lose both of them or fuck up everything around them, because losing one of them to keep Kelsey Mitchell.
And you don't have to look far to see how it's supposed to be done. Look at the Indiana Fever. They've got Caitlin Clark, who's headlining this year's All-Star starters, and Aaliyah Boston, 2 franchise pillars locked in place. They made smart moves around them, including keeping Kelsey Mitchell in the fold. Are the Fever flawless? No, but they built a real young core, and then they protected it. The Sky, over that same stretch, churned through coaches, cycled through veterans, traded away Angel Reese, and gave up their picks. One franchise turned a generational young roster into a foundation. The other turned a promising young roster into a cautionary tale. Same league, same era, same window of opportunity, and completely opposite outcomes. And the fans have felt every bit of it. 2 straight seasons in the basement, and now a marquee weekend that's shaping up to put the home team on national broadcasts for all the wrong reasons. When the model everyone points to is sitting right there and you're the warning label, that's not bad luck. That's a decision-making problem, and it runs all the way to the top.
You signed Natasha Cloud, Skylar Diggins, who are both garbage. Who have both been garbage. And again, of the 3 of them, the best has been Courtney Vandersloot. She just has been. Like, she just has been the best.
Which brings it right back to how this roster was assembled, because that may be the single clearest mistake of all. Heading into the year, the Sky's plan at point guard was to run out 3 veterans, all on the wrong side of 30. Skylar Diggins, Courtney Vandersloot, and Natasha Cloud, a 34-year-old brought in late in the offseason. 3 ball-dominant guards, all needing the ball in their hands, stacked directly on top of one another. Marsh said before the season he was confident he could manage all 3. 19 games later, that confidence has produced a public benching, an Instagram meltdown, and a locker room the entire league is now reading about. You did not need a front office title to see this coming. Pile 3 aging point guards on top of each other, and it resolves exactly one way. Someone's unhappy, someone's on the bench, and there are nowhere near enough young legs on the floor to actually win games.
But you also have to take into account that GM Courtney Vandersloot has been the best point guard the Sky have had. And Tyler Marsh is the worst coach in the league.
And sitting on top of every bit of this is the coaching seat. Tyler Marsh is in his first real head coaching job at this level, and this season has been a trial by fire. He is very clearly not winning. He inherited a genuinely hard situation, so no, this is not all on him. But the Sky are the ones who handed a roster this combustible to an unproven coach and basically said, good luck. And Chicago has spun through the sideline before. They moved on from Teresa Weatherspoon after the 2024 season, and every single reset seems to deposit them right back in the same place. New name on the door, same chaos inside. When the most trusted basketball mind in your building might as well be your 37-year-old point guard. The problem was never one coach or one player. It's the whole structure standing above them.
But yeah, look, it is this is a disaster situation for Chicago. And if you are a fan of the Sky, I feel bad for you. Like, your All-Star weekend was supposed to be a freaking free agency pitch. At least on a positive note, they're still Chicago, so they still have some sort of a market, I guess. But yeah, that's about it.
So put every piece of it together, because that's what makes these next 2 weeks so genuinely brutal for Chicago. In a matter of days, the Sky host the entire WNBA for the biggest party on the calendar, the exact event they handpicked to announce to the world that things had finally, truly changed. And what will the visiting stars and free agents actually walk into? A 6-14 team, a future Hall of Famer venting on social media, a brand new practice facility they can't even tour because it isn't finished, and a franchise with no first-round picks left to sell a comeback with. The one thing All-Star Weekend was supposed to be, a live in-person free agency pitch, has quietly turned into a live advertisement for everything wrong with the organization. Now, to be fair, it is still Chicago. It's a massive market with real gravity, and that alone will keep some players at least curious. But a market can only carry you so far when the thing attached to it looks like this. So here's the question I actually want you to sit with. Is this rock bottom, a genuine low the Sky can finally build up and out of, or is this just who this franchise is now, full stop? Tell me exactly where you land down in the comments. And if you want the full breakdown the second the All-Star fallout hits, subscribe and tap that like button so it finds you. I'll see you in the next one.